everyone, not just men, that they have an important role to play, a necessary role, and that that's not toxic masculinity. That appalling phrase.
Hey, I just wanted to come on here really quickly with a message for all of my muscular men out there. People love it. It's great. I care about you. But nobody cares about when you do that and there's like muscles there. Nobody cares about that.
As well as dispelling toxic masculinity and really redefining what it means to be a man. It's okay to be weak.
Message that it's okay to be a man.
It's not okay. It's necessary. What the hell are we going to do without men? You look around the city here, you see all these buildings go up. These men, they're doing impossible things. They're under the streets, working on the sewers. They're up on the power lines in the storms and the rain. They're keeping this impossible infrastructure functioning. They work themselves to death, and often literally. The gratitude for that is sorely lacking, especially among the people who should be most grateful. Social justice bent, who are among the most protected and privileged people that the world has ever produced. They take everything they have for granted, failing to understand entirely that there's a massive infrastructure of unbelievably hardworking, solidly laboring, working class men breaking themselves in half on a regular basis, making sure that everything that always breaks works. A little gratitude for that is in order. And it's very useful to tell everyone, not just men, that they have an important role to play, a necessary role, and that if they act properly and honestly and forthrightly, that they can put their lives together and they can help their families and they can make their communities better, and that that's not toxic masculinity. That appalling phrase. It's what keeps the world going round. If we had any sense, we'd understand that, instead of doing everything at every possible moment to label what we have in the West as oppressive and patriarchal and fundamentally predicated on power, of all the insane propositions.
The average man spends his day in bed, surrounded by screens, candy, and unending comfort. He's too tired and unmotivated to do what he claims to want. They're wasting their lives by watching others go through it while cheering them on from the sidelines, never to see the wonders of life for themselves. How did man evolve at such a rapid rate? How did the death of masculine and ambitious men come to be? So, how did we end up in this situation? Trading our desire to go out into the real world and achieve our goals for short-term comfort and pleasure. Guys have lost their sense of purpose, and they're locked in a never-ending cycle of bouncing from dopamine high to dopamine low via social media, porn, junk food, and video games. It's become the standard to sacrifice our desire to make a difference in the world for cheap dopamine. When you have a limitless supply of Netflix and pizza, why attempt to alter your life in the world? It may feel better in the moment to sit on the couch or lie in bed all day, but as time passes, you will feel worse, and your ambition will dwindle until it is completely gone. If you want to live a life and have a future that inspires you, you must not only be ambitious, but also take action on that aspiration. We went from being able to change the outside environment and create a more inspirational future to escaping to video games and our phones for a sense of control and power in the digital world rather than the real physical reality. Guys are more anxious and uncertain than they have ever been. Isn't it a coincidence that when we're most alienated from the physical world, our anxiety levels skyrocket? You get what you put in. The worried mind's imaginary nonsense world vanishes. This is something that men require. More of this is needed in the world at large. I completely agree. We've become so engrossed in finding shortcuts to the feelings we desire that we've begun to trade the things we desire. We're further removed from reality than we've ever been. It's difficult to focus in a society full of distractions and rapid satisfaction, but it's also incredibly gratifying. You'll end up leading a frivolous life that passes by way too quickly if you never learn to hunker down and focus. And you'll never do anything significant with your one chance at life. If you learn to use it intelligently, the world of endless, on-demand comfort can either cage you and keep you from doing anything in your life, or it can release your actual potential. You may learn how to start your own business, construct your own physique, and cultivate your intellect using the internet. It can, however, provide you with access to porn the moment you get up, provide you with so much cheap dopamine that you don't want to do anything else, and convert you into a robot. We've been given the keys to our own nuclear doom, but we don't know how to use them without destroying ourselves. I'd want to ask you a question. Is your phone controlling you, or are you controlling it? The answer to this question will reveal the road you're on. A route of trivial, forgettable micro-pleasures on a daily basis? Or do you want to go the path where you make the most of the one life you have and leave no stone unturned? The first step on that route is to be aware of how you're using your tools. When you immediately pull out your phone and start checking apps you don't care about, ask yourself this question. That isn't a deliberate use of your tool. That's sheer addiction, not habit. It's become so easy for most people to exchange ambition for comfort that it's become the norm. Focus on the action you can do to bring you to where you want to be instead than constantly loading your head with knowledge that you'll forget about as soon as you've finished ingesting it. The simplest and most straightforward method to achieve this is to write down the one thing you can accomplish that day to move you closer to your goal before you do anything else. Before you check Instagram. Before you start swiping on Tinder. And not just any one thing, but the most important thing you can do today to move further away from your goal. The single thing that will allow you to make the most progress throughout the day. There must be a deadline for whatever you do. Otherwise, you'll never get anything done. And you'll waste your time researching when all you're actually doing is watching videos. Remember that information is useless if it is not put into practice. Knowing how to make a change is not the same as really making a change. Men and women in the caveman era had no knowledge other than each other. So they had to learn by doing. By experiencing things for themselves. And it is something else you must do. Adopt the attitude of do something, the desire to act, the desire to investigate and solve problems by tackling them front on, by taking the initiative, because most decisions are reversible and do not have life-altering consequences. Moving quickly is usually preferable to moving slowly. Too many of us have softened. While we're 25% body fat and eating sugary junk for breakfast, we whine that our lifestyles aren't good enough. When we spend all of our time indoors, with no sunlight, no physical activity, and 5+ hours a day on our phones, watching other people live life, we moan that we're miserable. When are you going to declare enough is enough, and it's time for me to go live my own life instead of watching other people live theirs? It all begins with taking action, and the single point of failure I see from most males is that they don't take action. Instead of going out and doing it for real, guys practice their conversation skills and eye contact with girls on YouTube videos. Our discomfort threshold is far too low, and our motivation to act is lower than it has ever been. If you never want to be uncomfortable, just keep doing what you're doing right now, and you'll be okay. But guess what? You'll never do anything substantial. Your life will remain the same or worse, and you'll always wonder, is this truly it for me? Or was there something else I was supposed to be doing with my life? How much discomfort you're willing to put up with is directly tied to your response to that question. Every day, consider that question and then decide how you want to spend that day.